Tufanye kazi pamoja na tukue pamoja kuimarisha Kenya, ni jukumu la Kenya.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome. This is the Farm Kenya show. And today we, of course, are here to give you insights into the world of agriculture, the world of agribusiness, agri-technology. My name is Peter Wakaba. And with me in studio today to discuss later on, of course, the nexus between soil protection and food security. Of course, two very able gentlemen right here. I will be giving you their names, of course. First being Okisegere Ojepat. He is, well, a famous face, a person we're used to here. He brings lots and lots of experience into this agriculture conversation. And of course, the other guest, I'll be supplying the name soon, but I do know he's a professor of what we are talking about. Karibu sana, Prof.
Thanks, sir.
Well, on that note, we will start off with a quick look at the news segment. So let's get right into that. Mwambia free, sina scripts. Well, let's get right into it. Then we will start off with our Farmer of the Day segment to set the stage for today's conversation. So let's get right into that right now.
My names are John Kamande Garuya. People call me here Mr. Organic. And we are in my own farm. The farm by name is Workers Organic Demonstration Farm. Workers Organic Demonstration Farm is in Murang'a County, Maragua constituency, and Kamauha location. So what we are normally doing at Workers Organic Demonstration Farm, the bag you can see here has what we call manure in it. And the other one here, the same thing. And then we have what we are calling as the mulching. The moment I put water around this place here, just like I'm doing, this one is a banana trunk, and the moment I'm watering it, it presses the manure down there, and then the water trickles down up to where now we have the mulching. And when it gets to the mulching, it goes around that mulching all around it, and what I'm doing now here, I'm doing what is known as water conservation. So when the avocado gets the water from where we are now, I put this bag where the canopy is, because where the canopy is where the roots of the avocado are, and these are the roots that feed the tree itself.
Well, of that, we then now get straight into our farm guide segment. Of course, today being the fact that we are talking about how, of course, you're supposed to be looking at protecting your soil, application of fertilizer, your interaction with it from that perspective. Let's get into that right now.
Farms in Makueni County are characterized by mango plantation, with the crop being at different stages of development. Some are flowering while others are rather young fruits and others are bigger. Crop harvest in a few weeks. As we are made to understand, The variation in stages of development is as a result of different weather conditions and varieties of mangoes. At Matiliku village, we meet Anthony Kimeu, a farmer whose farm is dotted with mangoes, oranges, and some pawpaw fruits. He is preparing to spray his mangoes against powdery mildew, which he says has been a menace to many farmers in the area.
Kile kilinifanya nipende hii kazi ni kuona kulikuwa na changamoto ama kulikuwa na gap kati ya mkulima na madawa na pia soko. Sababu mkulima amelima na midudu inakuja, na kama vile unajua wengi ni miaka imeenda sana, ikawa sasa hawaelewi hizi madawa na wako na opportunity ya kulima kwa ile pesa kiasi wako nayo.
Kimeu is not just a farmer but also a spray service provider serving over 300 farms within his village and others in the neighboring counties of Machakos and Kajiado. On this day, however, he is not just spraying his crop but also demonstrating on proper application of pesticides. In his company are officers from the Pest Control Products Board and the Chemicals Association of Kenya and Market Access Upgrade Program Markup Kenya.
Being a tropical country, we are plagued by a multitude of pests, and this means that we have to take action to ensure that at least we get some yield from our farms. One of the key sectors in agriculture is the horticulture sector.
As should be, the farmer starts by wearing his personal protective equipment PPE, which include goggles, gloves, a face mask, overall and gumboots. He then inspects his spraying equipment to ensure there is no leakage before carefully reading instruction on the pesticides label. Kimeu ensures the right pesticides are recommended on the label and mix it with some little water in a mixing bucket. Kimeu mixes this mixture thoroughly and heads to spray his mangoes, ensuring the nozzle is half a meter from the crop to avoid drifts, while keeping constant pressure on the knapsack sprayer and working on a stable pace.
In collaboration with the Markup project, we are reaching out to these small-scale farmers to educate them on proper application methods, the use of properly registered products, and the observation of the post-harvest interval to ensure that the horticultural produce that is coming from these farmers is fit for consumption and is safe for the consumers.
Some of the common challenges in pesticide use are use of underdose, use of wrong application equipment, and poor choice of pesticides for specific crops. Listed pesticides are usually available at authorized agro outlets. According to Ngige, some markets like the lucrative European Union have a list of recommended chemicals, and farmers should know which are allowed for what crop.
We will find that several malpractices are being done or are being done by farmers, like using of underdose or overdosage of pesticides, the usage of non-registered products, and issues like the use of wrong application equipment.
Having sprayed his fruits, it is time to dispose the pesticides container. The farmer punctures the triple rinse empty bottle and flattens it before putting it in a safe bag, awaiting transportation to a collection point based at the nearby Mushrooming Shopping Center. Part of the proposals in the Solid Waste Management Bill, which is currently in Parliament, require that chemical manufacturing companies and other manufacturers should be collecting empty containers from farmers. Farmers should not reuse containers for domestic purposes, as they may still have toxic residues. Additionally, they should not throw them in the pit latrines, as residue may kill microorganisms and insects. The containers should also not be buried, as remnants drain into the soil when it rains.
Use of pesticides has different aspects. The first aspect is about the safety to the worker, the person who is doing the application of pesticides. And we know that pesticides naturally, they are hazardous, they are harmful, they can cause acute and or chronic poisoning.
Funded by the European Union, Markup Kenya is a 4-year program which is seeking to promote food safety and market access for selected value chains. The program is implemented by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, in partnership with the government and the private sector. The trio, together with other partners, have launched a campaign to create awareness on proper use of pesticides targeting farmers and agro dealers in a bid to enhance food safety and market access.
We know that by the hazardous nature of pesticides, they can affect the environment, whereby we have the non-target organisms, or rather the useful organisms in our environment, ranging from the insects, non-target plants, and non-target animals.
PCPB's Compliance and Enforcement Officer Nicholas Mwendo says there are three aspects of safety while using pesticides. One is safety of the farmer, especially considering that pesticides are hazardous. The other one is safety to the environment, because pesticides can kill non-target crops, insects, and animals if it is not put into consideration. The aspects of crop safety ensures that there is no phytotoxicity that is achieved by using pesticides that are authorized. The campaign will target farmers and pesticide dealers under the slogan, Dawa Bora, Mazao Bora.
Well, off the back of that story, they're asking very, very important questions, of course, around the threats posed by chemicals and the, of course, effects of the remnants of that being ever present, if not handled in the correct way. Further for our discussion later on with our two guests in studio. Well, let's get into the news now. And conservationists have raised concern over the declining number of vultures and migratory birds in the country, and the increasing numbers of invasive species that continue to pose a threat to biodiversity. On the other hand, Kenya plans to mass cull the Indian house crow by the end of the year to control the invasive species that is said to have negative ecological and social effects. Gloria Milimu has that report.
They are majestic, feathery and fluffy aviators that make the world beautiful, enchanting and charming. However, conservationists reckon that the recent changes in birds' distribution in Kenya is one that requires urgent conservation efforts.
We are taking care of birds.
At the core of their concern is the shrinking number of some species of birds, an indication that birds are in trouble.
We found that a lot of our vultures, for instance, are actually declining. We found that a lot of our migratory birds are also declining. Their population most of them are actually disappearing.
Anthony Courier from the Tropical Biology Association says data collected by citizen scientists across the country indicates that a number of factors have fueled the current decline, including climate change. Other top threats to birds, they warn, includes hunting and trapping, agricultural expansion, deforestation, and invasive species. Whereas some species of birds can be an eyesore to many, conservationists see their role in preserving ecosystems and preventing diseases cannot be overlooked.
Everybody feels like all these marabou stock are creating a lot of, and polluting the environment because of, what they do. But actually, these are cleaners. They clean the environment. They remove a lot of dead carcasses that could be harboring species and pathogens.
On the other hand, the increasing population of some voracious scavengers, like the Indian house crow that has plagued the Kenyan coast, remains a major concern for conservationists. They have not only savagely outnumbered indigenous birds such as waxbills and weaverbirds, but also remain a reservoir for diseases, hence posing a threat to public health.
You might go to a particular area where you used to see 20 different species, but when the crow comes in, it pushes the number down to almost 15 species. That is a loss for our tourism industry.
And now, in a bid to stop the negative ecological and social effects, the government plans to kill at least 1 million crows by the end of 2024. The plan includes luring the crows using poison baits in specific sites near their roost sites in a bid to minimize the chances of killing other birds. Gloria Milimu, KTN.
Well, sad news for the crows there, but interesting to see what the effects that calm will have. Of course, something that we will get into later on with our guests. Now, on to more cheerful news now, where Enos Njeru has been chosen as the national chair of the Kenya Tea Development Agency for a new 3-year term following a board meeting held in Mombasa last week. Eric Chepkwony was elected as the vice chair of the board. Enos Njeru is the representative of the Embu Tea Zone, while Chepkwony is the representative of the Bomet area. The elections were witnessed by Agriculture and Livestock Development Permanent Secretary Dr. Andrew Karanja and the Tea Board of Kenya Chairman Jacob Cahill. On the same note, fertilizer for smallholder farmers is said to have arrived in the country from September 10th for distribution to farmers of tea ahead of the short rain season. Earlier on, the agency had announced that it had imported some 97,000 metric tons of fertilizer for the 2024-2025 tea season, an increase from the original 88,000 metric tons that was procured last year.
The re-election of Enos Njeru as the KTDA board chair has been disputed by a section of tea board members, led by a section of leaders, including Gatundu MP Gabriel Guthaka. The government was, however, put on spot over alleged interference.
We were there in the morning, but immediately we saw the meddling that happened, we left. Because we must stand by the farmers. And we cannot be counted to be part of a flawed process, a corrupt process, a process that is intent on making sure that farmers' money is lost to some few individuals.
Uchaguzi wa chairman waachiliwe, directors wenyewe wachaguane. Mambo ya watu kupiga simu kuja mpaka Mombasa, mambo ya ndani ya board, tunaona hiyo ni kuingilia mambo ya uchaguzi wa wakulima.
The KTDA Enos Njeru has promised to work with the government in addressing issues facing the farmers by improving the quality.
We will work towards promoting a strong tea consumption culture within our country. By increasing domestic demand, we can further stabilize and grow our industry. We will also focus on improving our quality, and we will be committed to improving the quality of tea produced across the country.
The livelihoods of about 5 million people depend on this industry. We have about 200 billion coming in terms of foreign exchange. So it's a major industry which we need to take care of. And that's why whatever is happening here is of very much of interest to the government of Kenya.
But what will be like music to farmers' ears is the promise that the government will help farmers find local and international market for their produce.
The production has been edging upwards, so we'll be working with the board, the KTDA board, the Tea Board of Kenya, to make sure that we look for markets outside.
We will improve the financial health of KTDA and its affiliated factories.
This is happening as the disputing group of tea members plan for another meeting in Nairobi next week, Thursday, for another election.
Hakuna chairman amechaguliwa. Sisi tutafanya mkutano Thursday next week, Nairobi, katika boardroom yetu, ile ambao ndio legitimate mahali tunafanya mkutano.
We can't say you're being
misled. Na tutachaguana.
Which one is our camera?
Well, let's move on then. And traders at the Lodwar fish market in Turkana County have protested over the lack of clean water and poor hygiene within the market. The traders are complaining that lack of proper collection of garbage and the lack of water in the market will expose them to diseases such as cholera and diarrhea. Traders claim that the county government is collecting dairy revenues from them, and yet the market does not have essential services. They have threatened to stop paying taxes to the county government if the matter is not resolved going forward.
Natoka hapa tuko na changamoto ya maji. Tuna watoto hapa, tuna kazi ya samaki, na unajua mtoto mdogo ni mchafu. Unagusa mtoto, oshe samaki, maji hakuna ya kutumia.
Karibu siku kadhaa hivi hatujapata maji. Na mnajua kazi ya samaki ni kitu ambaye ni rahisi kuharibika. Hata kwa kuosha hakuna kitu tutaosha ndio makastoma wakule ikiwa mzuri. Hata sisi wenyewe sasa hivi tunahangaika sababu tukipata kazi hakuna vile tutafanya. sababu hatuna maji ndani ya soko.
Tungependa serikali atusaidie kwa upande wa maji bila gharama yote. Maana yake saa hii sisi tumekuwa na changamoto, na vile tumekuwa na changamoto ya maji, inatakikana serikali ya kaunti itusaidie. Maana yake hapa ndio mahali wanapata naye revenue. Wakipata revenue na hakuna kitu sisi tumejengewa.
Well, farmers have been warned against using unapproved pesticides by the Pest Control Products Board PCPB for specific crops. A study in 8 counties across the country has found positive results regarding the level of residues in tomatoes, kales and onions, indicating that farmers are indeed starting to follow proper pesticide use with an estimated 90% compliance rate.
The purpose was actually to extract residues of pesticides in view of determining whether our farmers are using the right pesticides that have been registered for use on the same crops, and whether the residues of those pesticides meet the allowed Codex MRLs.
We would like this sampling done as often as possible, including yourself. We will be comfortable to see anybody goes to the market, sample it and bring it and take it to any lab for verification. So we want to give the country that assurance that every effort is being put in place from the private sector and from the public sector to ensure that the food that is supplied in the shelves, in the supermarkets, in the restaurants, in hotels, and whatever source of your raw material is safe.
They need to we work in a collaboration to ensure that anything that happens when transportation is being done, we follow the rules and the regulation, especially the Public Health Acts, which ensures that food is transported safely.
Well, we now want to proceed to a short commercial break. But on the other side of that, of course, the discussion around crop protection and, of course, what that means for food security and your security as well. And your health continues here in studio with my 2 guests. Stay with KTN News.
Unalima ardhi, mlango wa kulinda kuwa msingi. Kuwa na uhakika sasa, kukulea stakabali wa baadaye. Tufanye kazi pamoja na tukue pamoja. Kuimarisha Kenya ni jukumu la Farm Kenya.
StarTime's home solar solution with solar panels, hybrid inverter, and lithium battery, empowering you to do the things that really matter. A complete and reliable home solar solution. Call us today. StarTime Solar. Power your life.
We asked the children, how many of you brushed this morning? And this little boy, his hand didn't go up. And I said, well, why didn't you brush this morning? He said, my brother was using the toothbrush. If I'd waited for him, I would have been late for school. I'm sorry, I get a bit emotional when it comes to that. To be able to change a child's life, to be able to bring back that confidence about their smile, for me, is phenomenal.
Soft texture and 3 times faster absorbent channels, the new Morphix diapers help to prevent rush. Morphix, comfy like a mom's hug.
Sijui kwa nini matajiri wengi
Uona ni kama maskini hawezi kuwa na msaada wowote kwake. Sijui kwa nini.
What about my interest?
What? Get back to the car.
Haina haja, niko sawa.
What do you mean?
Wewe baridi imekuchapa. Sasa umeikumbuka shuka, lakini tayari ni alfajiri, kumekucha mzee wangu.
Kiongozi wenu ni nani? Hamida Kombo!
Nilisomea utabibu. I never wanted to be a politician.
Kuwa mkono ambao unalima ardhi, mlango wa kulima, kuwa msingi, kuwa na uhakika sasa, kulea mustakabali wa baadaye. Tufanye kazi pamoja na tukue pamoja, kuimarisha Kenya ni jukumu la Farm Kenya.
Well, indeed, thank you very much for staying with us here on Farm Kenya. Again, my name is Peter Wakaba, and on this second part of the show, we want to get right into the conversation and have the critical discussion that we've lined up that touches on the very heart of food security and food safety in our country. Of course, the role of crop protection in food security. Now, imagine in a world where issues like climate change, pests, diseases, these are all constant threats. And the use of agrochemicals and pesticides has thus become an essential component of modern agriculture. But of course, there is the flip side, that with this great power comes great responsibility in terms of utilization and balance. How then do we balance the need to protect our crops with the imperative to ensure that the safety of our environment, our farmers and our consumers is maintained? That's a discussion we have here today. And with us in studio, I'll start off on my near left, Okizegere Ojepat, the CEO of the Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya. He's, of course, a leading voice in the horticultural industry and, of course, speaks a lot to the challenges and opportunities that go with protecting from fresh produce from farm to fork, in fact, to the market, and ensuring that the food remains safe and healthy for consumers. On my extreme left, also very honored to have with us Professor Vasey Mwaja. He is from the Kenya National Academy of Sciences. Of course, Professor Mwaja brings with him a wealth of knowledge in the scientific and policy dimensions of crop protection, and he's here to offer us a broader perspective on just how Kenya can balance the use of pesticides with the need to protect biodiversity and the environment. Well, having laid that foundation, you can clearly see that this is a discussion that promises, gentlemen, to be very informative and insightful. Of course, this discussion is important because policymakers and other stakeholders who are concerned about the food security situation here in Kenya, of course, will want to get insights into that. Let's start off then. I think a good place to start, Prof, and to rope you in first is to define what we mean when we say crop protection. And of course, the sort of significance this has for things like maintaining crop yields, ensuring productivity and that sort of thing. Please start us off.
Thank you very much. Crop protection is a term we use when we talk about protection, is to make sure that for the farmers to get maximum benefits of their activities, make sure you can protect your crops from pests, diseases, and weeds, because these are two aspects. Knowing that if you don't intervene in time, you lose up to 50% of your production, which is a big loss to the farmer. However, when we talk about crop protection, we see use of crop protection technologies, really, because the aspect of people think crop protection is using chemicals or pesticides. That's not reality. Crop protection is more than that.
Yes.
So there's a broad aspect. However, due to the needs of trying to intervene in time, sometimes you end up looking for short-term ways to deal with those pests and diseases. So this is a key component in agriculture. It's not only for Kenya, but when you look at the global context, 95% of production, we call it conventional production, uses those tools called crop protection technologies for agricultural production.
And Prof, then this is also something that changes as the science improves and as we come to learn lessons based on the impact and that sort of thing. Talk to us briefly about the different methods that have been applied over the years, the impacts and the changes we've seen to this technology today, to the point where we're saying that in the past we used to see that, for example, as Africans, we have had our own methods. We've seen Western methods. We keep hearing about new technologies.
Yeah, the new technologies goes with changes. As when you look at the science, it's evolving. Science is not static. So techniques change. One of the best ways you remember in the 70s and the early 80s, people used to use large quantities of products to control pests. Today, they are using very little, but does the same thing. This is because if you look at the products, they are produced on the basis of technology, and the technology is becoming more efficient, which means that we can produce pest control products which can be used on a very small scale. Like we're going to talk about nanotechnology today. We are using unmanned applicators, using drones. Drones will not carry 5 liters. They use chemicals to be delivered through kind of technology. So these changes is on the basis of need to be. And as a country, we cannot bury our hands under this sand because these changes will come and haunt us. And remember, technology is not only the pesticides or the crop protection products. We are thinking about the use of delivery of the same through the seed, because the seed is part of the areas where either you can control the diseases early by planting the right seed and the right time. We also look at the aspects of what application you're doing irrigation, and you also need to know that some of the pests are in the soil. So you have to have diversified approaches to intervene in the production cycle. So this is why I'm saying that the changes are there, and they are going to continue to be there. So we must be alert, and we must be proactive in that direction.
Thank you very much, Prof. OJ, I want to bring you in at this point. And from the point of view that as a person who literally has to work with the industry and has seen these methods evolve over time, talk to us about the lessons learned, so where, of course, this conversation started, why we are even having it in the first place, and why it's important.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. We're in agriculture space. And I was telling Prof when we were coming that, agriculture is not going to stop as long as there's childbirth. People must eat. 2, that Kenya in particular is in a very good place in terms of the geographical location. We are in the tropics, and therefore the existence of pests in this part of the world is not a choice. It is a weather that is conducive for our production and also for pests. And for pests. Just like we have tourists coming around here, and I keep telling people, God was so gracious to put Kenya around the equator, and the equator then serves us very well. We enjoy 12 hours of day and 12 hours of darkness, and we enjoy generally very moderate climatic conditions and generally stable temperatures that are very conducive for agriculture.
And sorry to interrupt you, because most people might not understand when you say moderate. The fact that we don't see that seesaw of 0 to 30.
Because we don't see we don't experience what we call the extreme weather.
The
seasons where we have summer and we have winters. We are generally at an average of between 20. I think the lowest we have experienced is this time, where it has been 10. A little bit. But we are normally between 20 to 30, which is very accommodative, very appropriate for very many crops. And that's why I keep insisting that Kenya is in a position where we can produce 365 days of the year, and that we are in a very unique situation as a country, and perhaps that's what has made us in the horticulture industry particularly to be able to thrive over years. Now, when it comes to this crop protection debate and discussions, I think it has been taken out of context based on the emotions other than being very projective. And the interest. I remember a few years ago we had this conversation of saying, can we just check out in the marketplace the safety of our products,
Yes,
not
5
the
years ago.
pesticides in our products.
Yes.
The safety of our products that entails so many things besides just looking at the pesticides. So when it comes to crop protection, we say in our farming that we use plant protection products to just ensure that you manage an economical level that suppresses and keeps the pests at an economic level where you actually can continue and coexist. Now, what we've seen over time is that the crop protection products have made us, have ensured that we have our crops throughout the year.
Yes.
They have ensured that we remain in our export business. They've ensured that we have put traceability systems in place.
Yes.
Crop protection products are the reason why we are actually able to eat every day. In other extremes, and I keep telling people, recently we experienced locust in this republic. If it were not for crop protection,
yes,
we will have been swept properly and will have gone hungry and will have been beggars. Because other jurisdictions that, of course, have brought some conversation about the negativity on crop protection do not experience the temperatures we experience. And therefore, locust will never survive in their regions. They will not even arrive there. So for that reason, we're in a very unique place. And Prof and the other scientists have done so much in ensuring that we have a crop. And I can say this, Wakaba, I always tell people, as it is with the pharmaceuticals, where we are asking ourselves to follow certain conditions, instructions of use of pharmaceuticals. Same way here, if we follow the instructions as guided in the crop protection labels, we will be in a very good place because nobody ever stops Wakaba from taking pharmaceuticals. But Wakaba takes pharmaceutical, one, only on need basis, and two, as prescribed.
And the instruction
so
of
on our side here, we are saying nobody has told you to spray. But we spray because we have done scouting. We have checked the level, the threshold that we have allows us to control the pests at an economic level. And then once we are done with that crop, we don't bother to spray again. After certain times, we don't even get there.
So in fact,
what I'm saying here is crop protection products have a place on the face of the earth, particularly.
So our challenge then is simple, that we don't necessarily use them under the instructions of a professional, like we would take medicine and then follow those instructions.
What we are doing in this country is assuming we know. And we have allowed, for lack of a better term, quacks to be advisors of plant protection products. We have gone to school and studied, and there are people who have gone out there and done what they have done. Please allow experts to advise you and take instructions based on the advice. And if you do not have an advisor, I have always said we are open and available to offer that advice so that we do not condemn and blame the plant protection products, but we blame ourselves for not seeking the necessary knowledge that is required for us to administer. But from where we sit, plant crop protection products in this country have a place, and that is why we are we're able to produce food and we're able to feed people, even though, as we speak, we are still not food secure as a country.
So the conversation around the extension services is one for another day, but definitely a big part of this conversation. I want to go to Prof.
Perhaps before Prof comes in, I was so happy when I saw a clip earlier. That gentleman called Kimeu in Makueni is my student. A few years ago, we went down there and established private service provision. And we started in Makueni with the mangoes. And I remember Kimeu with a small team. We even encouraged them to become a business. They are now service providers with a business. They can come to your farm, offer a professional service. Today, when everybody is celebrating Makueni, I keep going back and talking to Anthony Kimeu and telling them, do you remember the conversation in 2012, 2013, when we were talking about it? It looks like a nightmare. Today, we are excited that service provision has been devolved and it's now in the hands of both the private sector and the public sector to offer the much needed support. And that is what we should be talking about here. How do we get that knowledge to the grower through either private submission or public?
Peter, I need to make a clarification to the viewers. Crop protection products,
yes,
I would say are among the most highly researched type of products in the market. More than even pharmaceuticals, I can assure you that.
Yes.
Because the process of getting that product into the market takes many years, plus also it goes on 4 steps. From the time when you discover it, you go to look at toxicological aspects of that active ingredient.
Yes.
Then you go to look at the ecobiological aspects of that active ingredient. By the time you come in to looking at the efficacy and use of that product and the choice of the particular pests that you target. So in the real sense, a lot of work has gone done. In particular, I like looking at the toxicological aspect because most of the reports that you find, people blame those crop protection products on is poisoning somebody. But I can assure the users and the people listening to us this afternoon, these products are well researched. That's one. Number 2, there's also another misconception that Kenya has got pesticides everywhere. We use so little. I can give you a very good picture. Africa uses less than 3% of the total pesticide production global. We are nobody. We are barely squeaking on the surface. The highest in Africa is South Africa, followed by Egypt. We are very far down. Now, when you look at the global context, Chinese are in the tune of 1.something million tons of active ingredients. Americans come next. Canadians, French, they come way, way up there. Yet, I use the word yet, you don't hear the big stories we talk about.
What about, Prof? Because they keep talking to us, and I'm glad you talked about active ingredients.
Yes.
Because the thing you hear is that there are things which are banned in other jurisdictions that are present here and are wreaking havoc. So they say.
I say no. I say no, Peter, because I spent 20 years in that space. When I talk 20 years, it's 20 years of that space.
Yes.
Working through the process of looking at through how do you, if you look at the classification of pesticides, they come a long way. We come from carbamides. We got all those classes, and normally there's nothing produced there that is sitting here for you. Remember that. So whatever it is, most of these products are all based on specific active ingredients which are named in different names in other places.
Yes.
So that misconception, that's, you know, you find that people say products are coming that's been banned. The process of banning is not over a cup of tea. It's a global process. You can talk about restriction, restricted use, or the product might fall off the space because the technologies have changed. The users now, they have changed the ways of applying that particular products for specific pests. So that changes that. Does not mean the product is banned. It could be of no economic use at that moment. As new products come into the market changes.
Yes, they will displace old ones out of that.
They'll move out, but it's a very, remember, these products are produced because of the conventions. Don't forget, we have the Rotterdam Convention. We have all these conventions which look at how do the products move from one space to the other. So let's remove that from there. Number 2 is confusion between what you read from, I would call it from people talking about something and what is real. What is real is the reality.
Yes.
The reality is that I believe we have this system in place to protect the users in Kenya and also to protect also the industry and the people at large and the economic production. Should we tomorrow wake up? Some countries have tried that massive banning of usage. Agriculture collapses overnight. I can tell you that if tomorrow we woke up and see we ban products in this country, there'll be no agriculture.
Yes.
And sometimes emotions overtake reality. And for us, as the Kenya National Academy of Sciences, we call ourselves, we come in to give a balanced and a neutral position. Science-based solutions.
Yes.
We look at it. We look at it through a one-on-one. We sit down as a team of experts, debate the whole process until we are sure we go through to get information from either the manufacturers or the industry, the researchers, global, and we come up with what we call a science-based decision, which does not necessarily make everybody happy. And one of those ones is what I'm saying.
Yes.
We can tell you something you don't want to hear, but that's a reality.
So how come then these people are not turning to scientists for answers? They seem to listen to politicians more.
Not even turning. The reasons are the politicians also listen to them. I'm going to change this. I have no regrets putting that statement. Because they're looking for an access. Remember, what is their interest? The question I always ask, if I come today, what is your interest in trying to restrict the usage? You want Kenyans to remain being out there, they cannot produce enough for their people. If they cannot, then you're building a market for somebody else elsewhere. Who are they agents for? So for us being Kenyans, and being Kenyans, we have the capacity and capability to look at some of these details and come up with a well-researched and well-thought answer, including advising our parliamentarians. We need to do that. That's our responsibility.
Yes. So, OJ, 5 years ago, when we had this conversation first, Prof, it was actually because of a story that ran that had shown that someone had been growing veggies in sewage somewhere. And they had then been able to deliver this to a supermarket. And because they were looking very good, they, of course, had been consumed. And then one day someone checked and he said that on live TV. So the question then was, how come there weren't any mechanisms to test these and check them out in the market? And of course, discover whether this is right for consumption or not. And then it turned out that these mechanisms actually did exist. But the demand for testing, the metrology aspect of quality determination was almost non-existent because our market did not demand it. People were getting tests for crops that were for products that were being exported and diverting those that failed into the local market, but the local market was not testing. Have we moved from there, OJ?
Yeah, let me thanks, Wakaba. Thanks for reminding us where we started from. So when I see some confusion in the market, sometimes I ask people, I wish people post and asked, where are we coming from, where are we, and where are we headed? And I want to start by saying that, first of all, agriculture is not an event.
Yes.
And it also has to be remembered that what you asked, Prof, about banned pesticides and other jurisdictions. Number one, why will they have those pesticides there when their climatic conditions do not allow that pest to exist? If there's no pest, it's like mosquitoes. There are places in this world mosquitoes cannot. So I do not export a mosquito repellent because what are we repelling?
True.
So we are in a situation where some products are in Kenya, are in this part of the world because of our conditions. If we did not have those pests here, there will be no product. Number two, I like what Prof said. You know, I hear people say banned. Banned by who? Number two, number three, I have traveled a bit. And there's a product, for example, that was considered a no access in Kenya. And now the markets are demanding that we fumigate our products using the same molecules.
Really?
Yeah. For example, we are working with Australia. It's not a secret. Australians are saying fumigate our products with methyl bromide. The EU are saying they do not even want to imagine that we know methyl bromide. But we must respect their jurisdiction. When we go to India, India is telling us fumigate our pulses before you send them to us. I can tell you today, if you go to America, the kind of fumigation, depending on where we are going, is so massive. And as Prof says, the entire Africa uses 3% of the pesticides in the world. But I dare say here, are you telling me that the Republic of Kenya is clear and happy to import poison to kill her own citizens? And that we are authorizing molecules to come to this country to kill our own citizens? Because the emotions around it is that pesticides are causing cancer. Go to the cancer center, Wakaba today, and tell me how many deaths have been reported that have been associated with cancer. Tell me today. Go to the cancer center. It's open at Kenyatta National Hospital.
That are linked to
pesticides. That are linked to pesticides. You will realize that those cancers that are being spoken about are associated to so many other things. The other day I was in Peketoni, where there is no farming, and the people have cancer. So where did they get cancer from? Now, just to come back to what we said, the problem in this country is the Kenyans, the consumer, who has never demanded for anything. Though the testing facilities are there, I mean, we have spoken to groceries.
Yes.
And they will tell you, listen, we are willing to have all the tests done.
Yes.
But for who? Who is asking for it? Kenyans do not want to ask for accountability of the products they eat. On our side, we are very responsible. Wakaba, we have been here. We export more than 3,000 metric tons per day out of this country.
And
we test at random, and I keep telling people, sample them anywhere. The same farmers who are growing for export are growing for the domestic market. Are you telling me we are going to grow something good for the export market and kill ourselves? Now, what we are saying here as a country, we need to be, first of all, take a pause. Agree that we have a system. Agree that there are things being done. Currently, what is the county doing? What needs to be done? How do we support each one of us within the farming industry? And I want to say this, as you say, politicians are our biggest, weakest link. Politicians wake up in the morning, make a pronouncement.
Yes.
For example, pesticide cause cancer and cause unnecessary panic. And the burden of proof now goes to the other person. Yes. I wish those politicians could be asked to prove, put a burden of proof on the table that this pesticide, this cancer actually is attributed because of this pesticide. But now to come back a step back, as we say, we have systems that have allowed us to measure.
Yes.
The biggest challenge we have, and I want to use IEBC as an example. When we are about to go to the election, IEBC comes in and says, listen, we have 6 ballot papers.
Yes.
There will be one for the president and the last one for the MCA. For a whole month, there will be a whole education about, including putting in a newspaper.
Yes.
Who has invested when it comes to agriculture? To tell people the do's and the don'ts, even just in the newspaper or in the press through yourselves. Who tells the grower about that? We are all busy waiting until it falls. But let me go back to the budgets. How much budgetary allocation, even if we talked about the extension services, do we allocate agriculture? We have protocols and meetings that have gone. Government, Kenya has signed off.
Yes.
We are supposed to be receiving at least a minimum of 10% of the national budget allocated to agriculture. How much do you get? Less than 3%. So, and you expect agriculture, and that's less than 3%, you expect agriculture. I can say on this show that a lot of our agricultural activities today are funded by donors. If you have a donor, they have their interest. And sometimes, let's be candid enough, that we cannot relegate our responsibility to our neighbor to fix our domestic challenges. So what we need, in my opinion, number one, is allow agriculture to be run by agriculturists. We have enough professionals. Get the professionals to run agriculture. And let politicians make policy decisions that are informed by the science, and let them consult. We have a conversation going on here. Has anybody called OJ and said, come, let's sit on the table, what are the needs on your side? Nothing. We hear public participation. Prof, unless they have called you. No, even when it comes to the budgetary allocation, nothing. So let me give you this back to Professor by saying, friends, there are regulatory frameworks that have been put in place.
And lots of policy.
And there are policies that have been put in place. What we need to do is to say, how do we, for example, how do we strengthen PCPB? I can tell you there's a bill for PCPB bill that has been there, that has been supposed to have been amended and adjusted and worked on by Parliament. It has been hanging for 20 years.
Now. Almost
20 years.
20 years.
20 years.
Yes, when a bill goes to Parliament of Kenya, it's more than 20 years. 20 it has not been enacted. 20. Back and forth.
The last bill was done in 2006. That was the last thing.
Back and forth. 2006. When is it today?
Yes, it's 18 years.
18 years.
Yes, that is a long time.
So if we have a parliament here that wakes up in the morning and says we have pesticide, and they have a regulation they have not been able to fix for 20 years, who is the problem? Is it the regulator or is it the parliament? And remember, this parliament can go into, this government can have parliament pass a bill overnight because of certain things. When it comes to agriculture, it's 20 years. Do we want to go to that direction? So our weakest link today is our leadership, that either because agriculture does not put donations on the table, but I can tell this without fear of contradiction, we want to assure the world, particularly those who are buying from us, that we have done everything humanly possible
Yes.
First, to use the recommended pesticides when it comes to plant protection.
Yes.
2, we observe everything. That is why Kenya is still
standards.
exporting.
Yes.
All the standards have been observed. And we are currently doing massive private sector education to our people and to our farmers. And that's why if you go to Eldoret, or you go to Nakuru, or go to Meru, or go to Loitoktok, the behaviors that were there 10 years ago and the current behavior are completely different. The current culture, the current grower, a farmer, is Wakaba, you and I, who have gone to school. And we know the importance of safety. But I dare say Kenyan consumers must take the first responsibility of asking what are they eating and putting something we call a traceability system in place, backed by the governments of the day, as we do from the private sector. And on Saturday, I wrote and I said, food safety is everyone's responsibility. And food safety is not pesticide. Food safety is the entire system, including how you carry your food from the grocery. Ladies have bags. What is in that bag?
What else is in the bag?
What do you have in your car? I mean, the food could be okay, but by the time you put it in the truck and transport it, you're contaminated.
So, OJ, it is an entire ecosystem.
It's an entire ecosystem.
We have 2 minutes before we go to a break, Prof.
Peter, because I don't want that before we go for break.
Yes.
OJ actually mentioned carcinogenicity, cancer.
Yes.
I want to be very clear. A complaint that was raised about 2019, which made us look at some of these products is glyphosate-based herbicides.
Yes,
and I want to talk about it categorically. I want to talk about it today.
Yes.
Because I've dealt with this product for the last 30, 40 years myself personally, both from the research side, from the usage side. But I want to say something very small. One thing is there's a confusion between the product which has been perceived through people. Perception is different from reality.
Yes.
This product has been worked on and we have looked at it in many ways. We've got standards from EPA, from European Food Safety, and I've looked at about over 400 reports sitting out there talking about glyphosate and carcinogenicity.
Yes.
Nothing.
What about the stories we saw for example, in the United States about the guy who used it?
Yeah, but people have a confusion.
Yes.
I spent 20 years in the U.S. I worked in the U.S. I worked with glyphosate.
Yes.
I worked in a group that did glyphosate herbicide tolerant corn and soybean. Those people have reported, but there's no technical component. That's why the case is still going on.
Yes. And no, there's even a win last week.
There's no facts.
2 or 3 weeks
Let me
ago?
use the word.
Yes.
I worked for EPA.
Yes.
We used to call it, we do what special studies.
Yes.
Looking at products that have expired patents. Glyphosate was patented in 1975.
Yes.
How many years ago? 40 years plus. This product has been in use for 50 years.
Yes.
And there has never been
the linkages
between even with the test animals of glyphosate with cancer. And if somebody has those studies, I would wish them to...
Yes, it would have come out much earlier.
Yeah, it should have. And as Kenyans, let's not react. We reacted with GM crops, which were complete misnomer.
Yes.
We are now back in, we came in and talked a bit about it. And let's talk about other things, but glyphosate has no major implications.
I want to cut you off, Prof, because we need to go to that break.
Yeah.
When we come back, I want us to talk about 2 things. Traceability, which he mentioned, and what that can do for us. And then, of course, the aspect that away from the chemicals, there's so much more we can do to ensure food safety.
Sure.
So that after the break, we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Pamoja na tukue pamoja kuimarisha Kenya ni jukumu la Kenya.
solar solution with solar panels, hybrid inverter, and lithium battery, empowering you to do the things that really matter. A complete and reliable home solar solution. Call us today. StarTime Solar. Power your life.
There are some people you do not employ. One of them is your brother, your sister, your uncle, your aunt. Don't employ those ones. They'll destroy your business.
What's been your biggest regret?
Trusting too many people. Trusting people who tell you how things are going to be all right without evidence. Sometimes it's good to be mean.
So you don't go to church?
You go to church. You go to church, yes. But remember, the primary goal of going to church
is to pray and worship.
To pray and worship. Your money must take care of you at a later date when you can't earn it. So don't give it away.
When I have back pain, I reach for 2 tablets of Panadol Extra for fast relief of strong pain, like headache, toothache, muscle pain, and I'm released from pain to be there for those who need me. Try Panadol Extra for fast and effective relief from strong pain. New Panadol Extra Soluble dissolves twice as fast versus standard paracetamol tablets.
Kenya ni nchi ya mabingwa na
hapa hakuna shortcut.
Kuwa bingwa ni kujitolea, kujituma.
Mabingwa hutambua mabingwa wenzao.
Mabingwa hurauka kabla ya jua kuchomoka. Wengine kuwa mabingwa wa familia. Mabingwa huhakikisha tuna shine kama mabingwa. Wao hutulisha vyema. Ma-influencer wa kutuconnect mtandaoni. Mabingwa, wale ambao hutuongoza.
Sisi wote ni mabingwa.
Kijana hapo mbele, mzee hapo nyuma. Jamaa na jembe. Boda aliyemleta jamaa na jembe. Msichana wa kibao. Memba wa bodi, msichana wa maziwa.
Sisi wote ni Team Kenya.
Keep on shining.
Your future isn't just a dream, it's a destination within reach. Join us at the Youth Empowerment Forum on August 28th, 2024 at Standard Group from 6:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. as we equip you with the tools, knowledge, and connections to build your extraordinary future. We're not just talking about building your future, we're empowering you to make it happen. Discover how to turn your passions into profits, harness the power of social media, and step into leadership. We'll explore essential topics like mental health, resource optimization, and the importance of financial security. Whether you're a visionary, a connector, or seeking inspiration, this forum is your launchpad to extraordinary achievements. Your future starts here.
Sijui kwa nini matajiri wengi huona ni kama maskini hawezi kuwa na msaada wowote kwake. Sijui kwa nini.
What about my interest?
What? Get back to the car.
Haina haja, niko sawa.
What do you mean?
Wewe baridi imekuchapa. Sasa umeikumbuka shuka, lakini tayari ni alfajiri, kumekucha mzee wangu.
Kiongozi wenu ni nani? Amida Kombo!
Nilisomea utabibu. I never wanted to be a politician.
Kuwa mkono ambao unalima ardhi, mlango wa kulima, kuwa msingi, kuwa na uhakika sasa, kulea mustakabali wa baadaye. Tufanye kazi pamoja na tukue pamoja, kuimarisha Kenya ni jukumu la Kenya.
Well, thank you for staying with us. And as that little song there goes, ni jukumu la Farm Kenya, and the rest, of course, you know. Before we went to the break, we had been in discussions around the context around biotech and the framework under which it has been accepted or rejected in this country. And now to bring Prof back in from that angle before we go to the traceability aspect that we intend to discuss at this point. And the fact of the matter is that this has already been in place in some countries for generations now, and people have been reaping the benefits of these methods of ensuring food security.
Yeah, the use of biotechnology basically is a tool to reduce the cost of production. Remember, a farmer is a business person like everybody else. In context, if you look products like in North America, I would say that weed control is the highest cost of agricultural production.
Yes.
So farmers who utilize technologies can be able to save them those number of applications, those number of flying through the field.
Yes.
And that is the whole aspect of using herbicides like glyphosate as a tool.
Yes.
Is a tool, is a weeding tool, like you use a tractor. The point here is that when it comes to discussions about glyphosate or talking about biotech, talking about genetically modified crops, is basically bringing in technologies that can save the farmer money. Farm can make more money out of his or her production.
While remaining safe.
While remaining relevant, but also with the safety aspect being considered. Because nothing is released for use in the farm without going through a rigorous testing and investigation. Personally, I worked with that particular environment. I worked with glyphosate right from when I was in graduate school. I mean, up to the time I finished my PhD. And I worked on GM corn and soybean. I was operating research from Pennsylvania to Minnesota. And I was looking at how does the new biotech-based crops behave in relationship to the other crops. I used to take care of about 7 million hectares of maize and 7 million of soybean. All of them were basically looking at use of glyphosate and glyphosate-based technologies on how it can be used. These farmers are making money. These farmers are producing enough to export. So personally, I am a proponent of GM crops, which means, again, for me, GM is nothing other than transferring the trait or managing the weed through the seed, and therefore to transform the seed to be the one carrying that tool called the glyphosate. The one we use now, right? Glyphosate.
Yes, which then comes in as inbuilt, not application.
Not application, yes. So you reduce what you call the footprint of pesticide in the market by single application through the seed, which means I will reduce the number of applications of the particular herbicide itself.
And that was actually rolled out.
And no doubt, crop improvement, that's what we call crop improvement today. And we're using that biotech to deliver that trait that can help the farmer save money.
Is this working in other places across the world? Has it had results? Have there been negative outcomes?
No, I have not seen any yet. I'm a scholar. I spend a lot of time. That's my area, by the way. That's my area. I've been that area of that space for over 30 years now. And I've been working on the same. I follow the threads. We call them threads. And I've not seen any report other than what came up in 2012, which was basically not good science. And for us, again, as the Kenya National Academy of Sciences, we don't get emotions, we look at science. And through the science, we can make decisions whether it is to go left or to go right. And that's why when I'm sitting with you, Peter, right now, I am telling the Kenyan people, I have tasted food before it is cooked. That so-called maize. Before it is cooked, which is the GM maize. You are worried about the one you've eaten your ugali or you cooked your beans and maize, but I'm talking about that tasting that fresh.
Before
to know the difference between the conventional one and the modern
GM
one. But the whole process here is that particular crop is being also enhanced in productivity. Because other things is that in the process of bringing in the new trait, you're also improving on the yields, because that's the bottom line. That's what the farm is looking.
There are those who said that that is just one way of stealing our food sovereignty, and that we will have to keep going back to the owners of that technology to regrow and to essentially replenish because of things like the killer gene and licensing and things like that.
I want also, but it's good you have mentioned that. I think there's again misinformation there, because what happens when we use what we call the terminator gene is a technology that we actually put out in 1996, 97.
Yes.
It was completely removed out of the process because the farmers is not on every farmer they like keeping their seed. What is very important for us as Kenyans, how can we improve our germplasm using the same technology so that we get benefit? You cannot complain of somebody's trying to take away your seed when you're not improving your own. Therefore, it is the challenges for us. So put more money, as OJ did mention, put money to the researchers, let the researchers also improve our own germplasm or our own varieties to be competitive. Today, our varieties are not competing very well. Why? Let's look at the traits.
We have just about 7 minutes left, gentlemen, for the show. Time flies when you're having fun. I want us to talk about traceability, OJ. And I want you to talk about what it means first, so that people can understand how the system works and what it would mean for food security and food safety, and how we can then implement that across our food value chain.
Thanks. I think for me, traceability is just a very simple word to be able to be accountable. One, where you bought it from and who you sold to. It's, do I know where I bought it from and do I know whom I sold to?
And this is from the farm.
And that's from the farm. So it's, do not go to complication.
From farm to fork.
A farmer should be able to know they sold to who, and that person the same.
And
the
where
same
he
thing.
got his seeds.
And where he got his seed. It just goes simple, one step back, one step forward, so that we are able to handle it within the value chain. Because you may not be able to follow all. And that just assures us, one, that in case of anything, we will know where the challenge was. And also in terms of strength, we'll know where the strength is. And this is not just for purposes of the safety, but also in terms of volumes, including food waste and food losses that occur along the way. It's spillages, and we get to know at what point are we wasting what and how do we recover, so that now the issue of food waste and food loss is addressed. And on this other side, in terms of production, I get to know I harvested 100 kilos. By the time it got to the market, was it 100 kilos? If I lost it, where did I lose it from? Did the quality was the quality compromised? Where? Was it because of the heat? Is it a cold chain? Is it a spillage? Is it this? So that we are able to get it. The beauty is that it's able to help us to be able to be what I'll call accountable. And for those of us who are in the export market, the market demands a story, a process. By the way, today, most people do not buy a product. They buy a process. You want to understand the process. And for you to understand the process, it means you must document. And that documentation should not be made complex. Document it in your way. A farmer should document it in their way.
So this is people collecting data at their own level.
Their own level. Do not complicate life. And then where there's IT, where now you need to get into sophistication, that depends on your level. But for the farmer, it's just to get to know, I bought this, I harvested from block A, and block A is identified.
So if we give an example for the consumers, for example, a packet of milk. So a farmer, a consumer knows, I bought this packet
from this supermarket
of this brand
from this
kiosk. The kiosk knows it was brought by that fellow in a truck. He works for that brand. And that person knows it was put in this truck at this time, in these temperatures, that sort of thing.
That's why when there's a challenge with certain products, you will hear, for example, in Kenya, you'll hear KEBS has recalled a specific consignment. The only way you can recall a consignment is because you have a traceability system that allows you to be accountable. But for the Kenyan the Kenyan consumer, they must go to the shop and ask, where did you buy this from? And for the grocery or the vendor, they should always ask the farmer, how did you produce it? That record will help us to ensure that a few characters who are not disciplined in managing properly our processes will start being accountable for. But the importance of this, it gives us an assurance that we are actually in control of our systems. And this is what gives us confidence out there when we export our product. I can tell you at a scan of a barcode in a supermarket in the US or in America or in whatever destination we sell to, they are able to tell this product, this is the journey it has traveled. That's all we want. Then we know how to address them. This includes, but not limited, to plant protection products, the nutrition system, the handling, who packed it, how did it, what is the journey of this product? That way, then we have confidence. And as he says again, that is when we get to see if we planted this lot number of seeds, it gave us this result. This lot number gave us. Then meaning even the productivity can be confirmed and we are clear. So traceability is what all of us require. And this is to the Kenyan consumer. It has nothing to do with the producer. For me, it's about the consumer. The producer just puts the system in place. But as soon as the consumers in Kenya start demanding and asking certain questions, our systems will fall in place and our losses will reduce and our accountability will improve. That is when the issue of this unnecessary emotional movement and conversation will come to an end. Because we will always know, by the way, the contamination within our food systems was not because of plant protection products, but because of our handling. For example, in a few years ago, I mean, all of us were in Kenya when we had some food poisoning done in Nairobi. That was an opportunity we squandered as a country. To have said we needed to have a traceability system so that we know, was that food poison that people got, was it really a food poison because of handling? Was it because of this? And did anybody come to us and say it was a pesticide?
No.
So how comes, when it comes to that food poison, it's not an
everybody
issue?
goes to that.
So I just want to say where we are, for us, it's important that we are all accountable for the food that we eat and ensure that there's a traceability system.
Yes, I want to bring Prof in for just 1 minute because we have to end. A lot of Kenyans have normalized the informalness, the juakali nature of our ways of doing things, which then wreaks havoc on such systems because there are literally no standards that people have come to learn for that. Now, informal jurisdictions, in places where you've been, this thing works because there is a certain way it's done. How would we customize it for our own use to make it simple and something that everyone else can look to?
Peter, there are two things. This conversation should go beyond the studio.
Yes.
We need to have the devolved system. And I'll be very frank with you that we lost it when sensitization, which was done by technically trained agricultural extension people, to be able to communicate with the farmers, will be able to advise them. Today, the farmers have nobody to advise. The agricultural sector is no longer a priority in most of the devolved, in the devolved setup, the counties. We need to go back there. Number two, Kenyans also need to respect and recognize the need to follow a process and a procedure. And that's what we are saying. There's so much. Remember, in this advent of this period of climate change challenges, we have to understand we are going to have more challenges, not because we cannot do it, but because we are using shortcuts to doing things. So we need to respect what has been worked on and appreciate the need for us to follow a process so that for the benefit not only of the farmer, but also the consumer at large.
Wakamba, there's a standard in Kenya.
Yes. The standards
there's a standard now that has been done. It's called KS 1758, Kenya Standard 1758.
Yes.
What we also require is we need the government, the regulator, to pronounce themselves and ensure that we enforce it.
Yeah, so we do have the standards and consumers need to be more hands-on. And of course that we need to go back to the extension services and make that a priority.
And food safety is not about pesticide. No. Food safety is about so many other movement issues. So that
Gentlemen,
we can be able to get
thank you very much for your time. Professor Vasey and of course OJ. It indeed has been a very insightful show. We hope to have you back. But unfortunately, we are out of time in that interesting conversation. Of course, the news continues here on KTN. Do continue to stay with us. But from us here in studio, it is Kwaheri ya Kuonana. The show continues tomorrow, same time. Do make a date. My name is Peter Wakaba. Kwaheri ya Kuonana.
Thank you, Peter.
Time has run so fast.